Hi, this is Riva. You're listening to the Respawn Lounge, and this week we're going to be talking about casual games. So, for casual games, that's kind of like a huge part of the gaming market right now, I think. But I think we're going to try to narrow it down to just a couple franchises. I know that the two that I really, really enjoy are Animal Crossing and The Sims, which I briefly talk about a lot, but never, I don't think I've actually spoken in any amount of detail on my love for the Sims franchise, which is...
Unending.
Horrible for my bank account. Absolutely horrible. I spent over $100 on The Sims 4 this year. It's bad. Don't look at me like that, Dan. Do not look at me like that.
That's not including the basic game?
Oh, no, that is.
Oh, okay,
that was including
okay.
base game, which I got off of Amazon for... I got a game code for like $30 instead of the full $60 or whatever.
And then 70 on expansions.
Oh, yeah, it's so bad.
Okay.
Oh, I spent probably more than 70 on expansions. So over $100 on The Sims 4.
Oh, I gotta bring up Train Simulator at some point in here.
Oh, Train Simulator.
You don't have to.
I do. I'm like legally obligated.
Yeah, so...
Dan, I pay you.
You don't pay me.
So, Casey, do you have any...
I'm playing a mobile game right now. That's pretty casual.
Yeah. So, I guess one of the things to always address when it comes to casual games is the negatives, like, just that stigma around, casual gaming is something horrible, when really I think the majority of the market dedicates their time to casual gaming. The Sims 2 is the best-selling PC game of all time.
Yep.
For a
Really?
reason.
Even more than Minecraft?
I think...
Maybe not more than Minecraft now.
But I mean, Minecraft's also...
Minecraft's also cross every platform, though.
Yes. Yeah. Let me double check. I know that The Sims 2 held that title for
a very long time.
An incredibly long amount of time. And The Sims 2 was also released as abandonware by EA and Maxis, which was recently, and also really cool, and brought this like really cool like resurgence of the Sims 2 community, which was kind of at that point dying out a little bit. But it brought in a whole new generation almost of like modders and meshers and people who like create custom content for the game, people who make stories, machinima. The Sims is really awesome for machinima. Like my guilty pleasure is watching Sims 2 machinima because it's either really, really good or it's like 2008 emo, like My Chemical Romance. Just amazing either way. Like,
it's sort of weird how common that is, considering how like generally happy The Sims is. Just hearing My Chemical Romance play with somebody else. Beeby bobbity boo.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's not a casual game, but have I shown you the RuneScape music video for Paralyzer? Because I don't think tone is something machinima makers understand.
I mean, to be fair, I think even RuneScape could fall under the casual game sort of.
Isn't it kind of a clicker, sort of? I've never played RuneScape.
It's a proto-clicker.
It's just an MMO. It's an MMO where most of the stats are non-combat, and even the combat is basically woodcutting.
So, you know MUDs, like multi-user dungeons?
No.
So, back in the olden days of the internet, the first...
1978, the old days, the DARPANET.
Back when, like, the very first MMOs sort of were MUDs, which were multi-user dungeons. So, like, and you would have, like, just, like, basic commands with, like, sometimes no or very, very minimal, like, graphics. Mm-hmm. Just playing around with other people and, like, chatting. And so RuneScape was a graphical MUD as its like initial release. And so he's sort of limited in like the active amount of things that you're doing at any one time. There've been they've been making it more active recently, but you're still like allowed to play in either way. And so, like, in many ways, RuneScape, as it evolves, like, once Muds died and RuneScape survived, was just a game where you would, like, I'm gonna click on this rock, and then I'm gonna mine it until the rock stops giving rocks. And that'll be the next 3 minutes. And I don't continue clicking on the rock. There's no, like, mini game to, like, mine it efficiently. I just click mine rock, and then I wait.
Yep.
It's there's like for the large majority of the game, there's like no real pressure. It's just like a really casual, like, trading and crafting kind of game.
So yeah, I guess it is casual. It's very casual in the scheme of MMOs, at least.
Yeah.
I had never heard of RuneScape before college.
Really?
Yeah.
You knew it only as Run Escape.
Oh my god.
No, the MMO that I played a lot of, which is definitely casual, Club Penguin.
Which is dead now.
Which is being closed on March 29th. I am
good fucking
distraught.
riddance.
You can now tip the iceberg.
Yeah.
Which is, 11 years a little too late, I think. But, yeah, I looked it up, and The Sims is now, it has been usurped by, it's fifth on the list, but it held that spot for a very long time. Minecraft, World of Warcraft, Diablo 3, and Counter-Strike are all ahead of it now.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. But... yeah, I love The Sims, like, with all of my heart.
So we're a few minutes into this, but what are we calling what is a casual game exactly then?
I think it's really hard to define.
I think that a lot of people define casual games as sort of, they're games that don't require a ton of skill to play.
It's whatever Smash Brothers version you don't like.
Yeah. They're typically... from what I've seen, a lot of people, when they throw casual around, it's games that don't take a lot of skill to play. There's no, like, really, you don't have to have that dexterity that a lot of other games have in order to play them. There's not even usually a ton of resource management involved. And they're usually open-ended. There's not a ton of plot beyond whatever you fabricate for yourself.
So would you say a casual game is less indicative of what the game is and more indicative of the intended way to play it?
I think so.
Or rather the projections that people have on how you're supposed to play it. Like, obviously, like, say Resident Evil 4 is not a casual game, but a case could be made that Animal Crossing is a casual game, which I believe in my original notes, I didn't call them casual games, I called them leisure games, because that's what typically seems to be the intent behind them.
Yeah, I mean, like, because there could be a non-casual... Well, okay, there could be, like, a non-leisurely casual game.
A non-lethal Animal Crossing.
But I think that'll be really difficult to do, and maybe not very good.
And it's also, when it does come to games like the Sims or anything that really, like, Train Simulator 2, there is absolutely like a skill that's necessary and required. It's just not something that you're typically used to in a game. Like, when it comes to, like, keeping your Sims alive, it's a lot harder than it really should be. And in Animal Crossing too, there's a lot of, like, I've seen a lot of self-imposed challenges.
Yeah.
In games, in Animal Crossing, especially New Leaf, I see a lot of like aesthetically pleasing town setups. I've seen people absolutely, like, reset their towns because a villager moved in somewhere that they didn't want them to. Because they wanted to be
gerrymandering.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going for the aesthetic, like, look at the games. They can post nice screenshots on Tumblr or whatever.
I remember that in New Leaf where people, like, the designs that you make for t-shirts and stuff, people were making, like, road, like, decals, like, brick layouts for you to, like, place on the map.
Yeah, and a lot of that, too, you can... That's typically why people want villagers to move into certain spaces. And that's also one of the ways I believe that you can get villagers to move into spaces. There's a lot of hidden things in casual games that most people don't notice. Like tricks and tips and stuff like that. I'm sure, especially for Animal Crossing, somebody else could speak a little more to. I really do play Animal Crossing as a casual game. I time warp and everything, and like I'm annoying when it comes to that. Like my villagers called me out on it in New Leaf, but like there's always this layer of intricacy to casual leisure games that a lot of people don't see because they're dismissed pretty handily by most.
Well, I think a lot of that too is a lot of people don't like games that don't have a way to finish. There's kind of an end state in Animal Crossing where you pay off your home and whatnot, but by and large, like beating Animal Crossing is meaningless.
Animal Crossing has what I see referred to as kind of a soft ending, which Stardew Valley also has a soft ending where you hit that 2 years, the end of the 2 years, and this event happens, but the game goes on forever after that. It's a soft ending in the fact that there is kind of an end goal, but the game doesn't stop when it's done. It keeps going. And for games like The Sims that don't even have soft endings, it's really interesting what the community has done with that kind of stuff. And like, here you go, kids. This is my Casey moment of talking for 50 minutes.
Okay, it's fine. It just means I don't have to this time.
About The Sims. The community creates self-imposed challenges to where people will create kind of like entire neighborhoods to complete objectives. And then typically it's screenshotted and posted online like a Let's Play. But The Sims isn't as entertaining to watch as it is to get kind of a highlight reel, which is what a lot of those posts are. But there's something called a legacy, which is you play with one family through 10 generations of The Sims, which is really hard to do because a lot of The Sims is very poorly built. It will corrupt itself like nobody's business. So most legacies are kind of a race against your neighborhood killing itself. But then also your Sims killing themselves because they're horrible gremlin children. And usually by the time you get to the third generation, something
terrible happens.
Terrible has happened, or you've married someone into your family who is just absolutely insane. Because the Sims 2 at least is kind of wacky with how it distributes the Sims personalities throughout, like, you have personality points that you have to distribute. And sometimes they just completely ignore that, and you start ending up with, like, huge fights, like your Sims making huge enemies with everybody because they won't stop punching people in the front yard, that sort of thing.
Which is fun.
Yeah, but the point of the Legacy Challenge is to get to the end of, you want to have the 10th generation born and aged up into adult, and you still want the family tree to be traceable to your founder, who's the first Sim. And there's a couple of different, like, variations on that sort of thing, but the Legacy Challenge is kind of the biggest one that you'll see. Then there's the build a city or build a community challenge with the BACC, which is, like, has a crazy weird list of requirements you have to do. Like, you have to roll dice to determine like however many people are in families. Like, you start out with 6 families in a completely empty neighborhood, and you have to roll dice to determine how many people are in the family and how old they are and that sort of thing, like completely random.
Yeah.
And then they have to go through certain careers in order to quote unquote unlock things for the community. So, you know, none of your families can use like a telephone until somebody's gotten to the top of the science career and unlocked technology or whatever.
Okay.
So they're adding
Very
some 4-axis stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of like really, really interesting stuff that people have done with The Sims because it is so open ended. You don't have to do things. And legacies and the BACC challenges, they both also will typically use a scoring system. So, you know, for however many children your person has, each child's a point. Each child that graduates from college, if you have the right expansion pack, is a point. That sort of things. There's things that'll deduct points from your total. And then there's also very specific things you can try to do to get like extra bonuses to give you more points. And there's like a ranking system for the longest time on a couple Sims forums. There's like a really hard thing you can try to do, which is to get, I believe it is the black sheep, the last time I checked, was an alien vampire zombie, I think, which is which you have to have a male sim be abducted to even get the alien in the first place. And then vampires can be very fickle and hard to track down.
So
just like real life.
Just like real life, absolutely. And like the chance of even having your male sim abducted, there's a lot of like math and weird stuff that goes into it. Like the higher your sim is elevation wise and also story wise, like when they're looking through the telescope will increase the chance of an alien abduction. And then specific telescopes have higher chances too. So there's a lot of like gaming the system.
Yeah.
There's also really there's something called the chemistry system, which was introduced with the Nightlife expansion pack. And the chemistry system just it's negative bolts, none, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 bolts is the best. And those Sims who have that 3-bolt chemistry will like become friendly faster. So like having a 3-bolt chemistry is the easiest way to kind of fast track a relationship, because you can go from just meeting to married by the end of the night, which is really ideal in legacy situations when you want to kind of get the next generation out because you're rushing against hood corruption.
Hood corruption.
Yeah, hood corruption.
There's a joke here somewhere.
Absolutely. Something about gentrification, I'm sure. But the game factors in the Sims' personalities, the Sims' aspirations, the Sims' star signs, and their chemistry. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It's really interesting and intricate, and it's like that really weird layer of like depth that this, you know, casual game has underneath of it, because there will be times where it seems so obtuse that these two Sims would even get along, but there's math behind it or whatever. And it's The Sims is also pretty poorly built, which is something else.
Yeah.
There are certain characters that you can run across in The Sims which will absolutely destroy your game if you interact with them wrong. There's characters that the game treats as objects and not as people, like within the coding. Yeah.
Just giving these jokes out like candy.
Absolutely. The game treats them as an object and not as a person, so when you try to do specific interactions with them, it has the potential to corrupt your file and then also make you reinstall the game. And there's also a really notorious bug that's passed around the community. This is the weirdest thing. I haven't heard of something similar happening in another game, but it's the The Hug virus, I think, is one of the names that it's given. But I don't remember how it started, but if you get the virus in your game, your Sims won't stop hugging each other. Like, it's aggravating. Like, they'll cancel interactions to go hug people.
This is a Junji Ito comic?
And so one of the ways that you can get the bug, because if you're just playing the game without having downloaded anything, you're fine. But if you get custom content from a person,
someone who has the bug.
Yeah, from someone who has the bug, then you will also get the bug.
Are they like? Can they be carriers for it? And like,
absolutely, yeah. You can definitely.
Is there a patient zero for
the hug virus?
Yeah, there. I do believe that there have been cases of people who have like essentially been carriers for it, like
show no symptoms.
Yeah, have not had the hugging problem and have passed it on to other people, which is. Then the Sims community got together and has made utilities that will
quarantining off the users.
They're not quarantining the users, but they've made utilities that you're supposed to run stuff through. The bug usually sticks to like lots, so if you download like a house that somebody's made, you'll typically get the bug that way. You usually won't get it if you download like hair or like, you know, whatever.
This is so weird.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the community has gotten together and created something called the Clean Installer, which I'm pretty sure now detects the bug and will remove it. I think we've finally tracked down that piece of code that does it, and you're supposed to run every lot that you download through the Clean Installer in order to not get any bugs that could transfer, because there's a couple of other things that transfer over, but the never-ending hug virus.
A mod purifier to make sure you don't get the hug virus.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But
so can you prevent the hug virus by putting a condom on your Ethernet cable?
Yeah, actually. But it's one of those things where, you know, the Sims 2 specifically has a huge community around it, and it started dying off a couple of years ago. Like, it's also one of the communities that I've been the most active in throughout my entire internet just existence, and a lot of the people that I interacted with as like a 13-year-old were, you know, moms in their 40s or you know, older people. But like people that I don't interact with as much anymore when I play other games, which is kind of, I think, you know, the Sims was a game for casual people for the longest time, but it has this incredibly dedicated like user base. Like, there are so many people who started like modding just because of like the Sims. Like, there's or so many people that got into like that sort of thing who never really would have otherwise. It has a really awesome community, but it started dying off a couple of years ago just because a lot of people started falling out of it. And then EA did a really awesome thing and released it as abandonware, which means they're not supporting it anymore.
Yeah.
But you can get it for free, the entire thing, instead of having to spend around $300 for all of it. Yeah. With The Sims, though, I feel like every expansion pack really is worth the $20 to $30 it costs, because it does add so much to the game. It is essentially like buying a new game.
It's really interesting thinking about DLC, especially on like casual games, because the pricing schemes are usually very different. Mm-hmm. Either like the games, like casual games are usually either very cheap and have no DLC, or cost the price of a regular game and have like hundreds to thousands of dollars of DLC. Mm-hmm. Like looking at something like Train Simulator.
There's your chance to talk about it.
Yeah, see, I was working it in. Which has actually thousands of dollars of DLC that you can purchase.
But it's also like the type of people who are buying it aren't probably going to buy all of that DLC because it's usually like this new train and this new train, but they have like 100 or more trains and they're like $2 or $3 a piece or something. So usually you're just going to buy the train that you want, not all of them.
And also, in the case of games like The Sims, where the packs are so big or whatever, a lot of people that play The Sims don't play other games. They don't spend $60, every twice a month on whatever new game just came out.
They don't feel some weird obligation to an industry they hate like I do.
Yeah. They don't spend all that money all the time like more serious gamers do, so they will end up spending, that $300 on The Sims, but that might be the only game that they spend money on outside of like Candy Crush or something.
Now that's an interesting phrase to use though, as serious gamers, because if we're comparing like so I'm somebody who's been in no less than 3 competitive game communities in my life. And to compare to one that's kind of like topical right now is Super Smash Bros. Melee, I would consider the people who play that game on a competitive level serious players, but I would not consider the people who just play the latest AAA release every month or so the same type of serious player. Like, I'm not trying to attach labels to people for the way and types of games they play, but the type of gameplay that people are doing when they practice days on end to get good at Super Smash Brothers, and the type of people who play, Call of Duty and Madden and whatever comes out every month. Those are 2 very different communities and 2 very different types of consumers. But I think these people who are dedicating like basically their lives to modding The Sims and Minecraft, I think I associate them more with the seriousness of the Melee players than the casualness of the people who just play whatever's the hot topic of the week.
Yeah.
So calling them casual games in the same way that we call like people casual gamers is an insult, I think is actually like entirely subversive to the actual like type of consumer that person is.
Yeah, I mean, because there's still a lot of differences between like how they'll play, like because like a lot of those people like may be individually like very very serious about one game, but like do not play like any other kinds of games. Whereas like a lot of people play like some of a lot of different games, and I think they're both like. I mean, obviously, they're both, like, totally valid as people who play video games.
Right, yeah.
Like,
and it is weirdly, like, as far as I know, unique to video game culture to, like, try to validate one another on the methods and types of games that they play, as well as the extremity of it.
I would disagree. I think that extends to a lot of other things. Like, because there's... Yeah. Because there's casual film fans, there's casual sports fans, there's casual comic fans.
Yeah, you're right, but it's... Yeah, you're probably right, actually. Like, sports fans, now that you bring that up, like, the whole of Super Bowl Sunday, people were just like, oh, you're not really a Patriots fan, you're just like them because it's the Super Bowl. And I'm just like, fucking, who cares? Just watch football, who cares?
Like, because, like, there's, in game communities, or, like, the nerd culture, those people who will, say, like, oh, you like thing? How about this random trivia fact? Do you know that random trivia fact?
Yeah.
Despite that being like the thing that everyone makes fun of people for doing.
I think a lot of that has to do with the age of people who play video games, because the video game players are louder about that, it seems like. Because with like, for example, football, which is the sport that I've been around the most, it's usually like just people who are all very enthusiastic about it, kind of kidding around in that like macho masculine kind of way, whereas gamers seem actually like vindictive and malicious when they do it.
It's also one of those things that is very impacted by gender too.
Yeah, definitely.
My credentials are called into question all the time for anything I do ever, and it's it's aggravating as hell.
I want to throw some shade at somebody from Facebook the other day who said that Pokemon Go's release was a political move.
Oh, yeah,
because it was released on the same day that the person who came out was talking about like Hillary's emails or whatever the hell that was. And he was like, yeah, why would they not beta test a Japanese game in the US or whatever? And I just wrote him a textbook about like why Japanese video games need to be localized and stuff like that. And he was like, come on, do your research. And I'm like, I don't think you know who you're talking to. and yeah, like people just like, obviously that person probably wasn't as involved in video games as I was, but it's something about video games feels like a stimulant for negativity.
Well, I guess it's...
It's definitely part of nerd culture, just in general.
Well, I mean, look at like the foundation of things, like the fact that Gamergate happened. Like, I don't want to get too deeply into that, but like that was just a bunch of people being like really malicious over like something they basically made up.
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of thing that, like, people don't, like, threaten each other's lives over football on as regular a basis as they do about, like, video games. Like, I want to be a games journalist, and I'm just, like, mentally steeled to, like, get death threats on a daily basis because of the type of community I would be interacting with.
Yeah. Because,
like, I'm going to say I don't like a game, and people are going to threaten to kill my wife or something.
Uh-huh. Give some game a higher score than, like, some other game and get made fun of it for like forever.
Yeah, Nick Maragos is still getting made fun of for giving Legend of Dragoon a bad rating like 17 years ago.
Yeah. One of the really notorious ones was with Grand Theft Auto 5, where GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10, which is still a phenomenal score, and the female reporter who covered it only gave it a 9 instead of a 10 because of the way that the game treats women. She's like, hey, as a woman, this kind of sucks. Like, it's the only thing holding the game back. And it was kind of definitely one of the tipping points of Gamergate. Not the one that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, but
the straw that broke 4chan's back.
Yeah. But it's one of those situations where even though, you know, nebulous gender stuff, I get a lot of flack for a lot of things. Like, I do get that, well, you know, you're whatever fan. Like,
what is Marth's blood type?
Yeah. You're a Fall Out Boy fan, name 5 of their songs. Blah, blah. Whatever kind of garbage.
You like Hideo Kojima? What was his latest album?
Yeah.
Name 5 of his albums. Yeah. That sort of thing. And I think that a lot of that also, you know, ties into casual games because they're typically games that girls play.
Like, well, I think another quality of casual games is the lack of an entry barrier.
Yeah.
Which is a big identifier for me is, like, you just pick up Animal Crossing at any point within the context of the game and you can play it as if you just had no idea what you were doing. It all comes pretty naturally. Similarly, like, Candy Crush, I'm sure, has a skill curve, but it's also not, like, a tremendously difficult game to just pick up and play whenever. Like, I'm playing Bloodborne at the moment, and I was doing, like, really, really badly at first, because I just haven't played it in a while. So I have to, like, go and relearn how to play that game, but I don't have to relearn how to play Animal Crossing, or The Sims, or Roller Coaster Tycoon. Those are games that just are... And a lot of it has to do, like, obviously they're not hair-trigger reactions like Bloodborne is, but I also don't have to, like, you know, go back and mentally note how all the mechanics of the game works and stuff like that. I'm not memorizing, like, frame data like I do in a lot of games.
Yeah. I mean, cause, like, a lot of, like, core games rely on your knowledge of other, like, core games to give you a basis of understanding for, like, how to be playing the game. Like, when you enter Dark Souls, like, you have, like, a health bar and, like, a stamina bar. And, like, if you played you know, like, a decent number of video games, like, you will immediately understand the red one is health, the green one's, like, stamina. Yeah.
There's a presumption that Dark Souls isn't your first video game ever.
Yeah, like, because it's, like, they explain how to, like, walk around and, like, move the camera, but you have to walk and move the camera before you get to the tutorial explanation of how to walk and move the camera. Like, those are there because, like, they have to be there, but...
I mean, they don't.
Well, yeah, okay, they don't. I mean, like, they really don't even have to be there. But, like, I mean, they feel like they have to be there. But, like, the game still relies completely on the fact that you understand that the left stick moves you around and the right stick, like, moves the camera.
Yeah, I mean, you could even go deeper and say, like, you have to hit enemies to kill them. Like, the game doesn't tell you that either, but it's, like, it's expecting some amount of the player to understand that. Whereas in Animal Crossing, it'll literally tell you, like, here's how you enter your name on a keyboard. Which is fine, like, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. Like, people have to start with somewhere with video games, and, like, even though I play, like, intense and difficult games, I still love Kirby, like, and that's a pretty, like, simple, almost casual game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kirby's fairly casual. Actually, I looked up the definition of casual game on Wikipedia. I think this would be a good thing to talk about. A casual game is a video game targeted or used by a mass audience of casual gamers Casual games can have any type of gameplay and fit any genre. They are typically distinguished by their simple rules and lack of commitment required in contrast to more complex, hardcore games. They require no long-term commitment or special skills to play, and they are comparatively low production and distribution costs for the producer.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I would disagree with, because like my gut reaction was, yeah, that sounds right, as soon as I read it. Mm-hmm. But I started to disagree. They said no long-term investment, and I would argue that Animal Crossing is the exact opposite of that. A game that like, look, I mean, like, there's no need to continue playing it forever. There's no end state. You can finish playing it whenever you feel like it. But there is that sort of like, hey, why haven't you been taking care of the town? Why haven't you been playing today? Sort of. But
even that would go back further to like Tamagotchis and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Which are definitely still, like, I mean, Tamagotchi is definitely like a casual sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And we could even start to call games that are considered core games casual, like Tetris. Like, has kind of fallen out of that spectrum and into being casual. Because I remember having like basically a Game Boy that only played Tetris, like some Tiger Electronics thing or whatever. Even Tiger Electronics games, or like even the Game & Watch series of games, were all very like casually built on purpose.
Yeah, I'd actually argue that most puzzle games would like fit casual.
Yeah, I mean, Bejeweled's the poster child of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Honey Pop. I've 100%ed Honey Pop.
Stop.
I did stop. I'm done with it. I just like Bejeweled. I remember when Luke was like, "Are you going to get Honeycam Studio?" And I was like, "No, it's not Bejeweled."
Yeah.
Why did you have to ruin this episode?
I just like Bejeweled.
I would say that it's definitely more the low entry sort of thing. Not necessarily like the only reason I would ever argue that short term commitment to it is that you don't have to pick up like Animal Crossing or whatever and play until you get to the next checkpoint. You can put as much time into it as you want or don't want.
You can play for 2 minutes, save and turn it back off.
Yeah. Whereas, with a game like Bloodborne, you have to go till you get to the next checkpoint.
You run into an enemy and then you turn it off forever.
Yeah.
Because even that gets kind of strange, because like...
So you can do that in Zelda. You can boot the game, take one step forward, and save it out of the menu.
Yeah. But like, because like Dark Souls and Bloodborne save constantly. If you quit the game, your character will just like be sitting on the ground and they'll just stand right back up, and you can continue playing from like wherever you were. Like there's but like a lot of other games, like, and even some casual games have like that sort of like a like checkpoint mentality.
Well, we're kind of getting into the no true Scotsman fallacy here, because a lot of what's defining a casual game is all those elements coming together at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
like obviously every game, like it's not like every game with checkpoints is a casual game. Like that's just a common quality of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say that like defining a game as casual is difficult because
it's not a genre.
It's not really a genre. It's not.
And also, genres are nebulous anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think intended audience has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think even more so than game style, because if the entire goal is mass appeal, it has to have a low barrier of entry, it has to be easily accessible, and it has to be something that's low attention, which is why mobile games are almost entirely casual. Mm-hmm. Which is why a lot of portable games were. That's why the Game Boy was almost an entirely casual system, being mostly sports games and mahjong and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's definitely one of the reasons too why I think Animal Crossing has moved from console to handheld, and it's unfortunate. And one of my hopes of the Switch is that they make another console Animal Crossing, but you can pick it up and take it with you. Like New Leaf is always in theory with me. Not
You're just always with me.
Yeah, well, not so much because I don't lug around all 8 billion 3DS games I own.
Yeah,
but because you have a bell pouch 3DS carrying case.
Yeah, now I have a bell pouch. Yeah, it's really cute.
Nice.
But I mean, it's one of those things where I could, in theory, have Animal Crossing with me all the time and just play it whenever I had kind of a spare moment. Because
that's why I think the mobile Animal Crossing is going to be really interesting.
Yeah. It'll be interesting whenever it comes out.
And it won't.
And
it's going to be a gacha game.
Stop. It's either going to be that or like Miitomo or something.
Everyone's rolling for their 5-star Isabos. Isabel.
Oh.
Isabeau's from Shin Megami Tensei 4. Very different.
Isabel, who I love with all my heart.
She's the dog person, right?
She's the dog secretary. My beautiful puppy wife, who I love with all my heart and who is really good in Mario Kart, and I love her.
Have you ever seen that picture of her wearing like riot gear?
Yes, I have seen that one. That's great.
Like throwing a nightstick around, like stand back. She's got a big riot shield.
I love Isabel, one of the best Nintendo characters ever. Make more Isabel, please.
I'm fine with that. Make more dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Isabel for Smash.
Yeah. Animal Crossing 2 also is really interesting because they have an even more casual spin-off, which is Happy Home Designer.
Huh. Oh, yeah, because I was just
Excuse
the
you.
home design part.
There's nothing casual about that.
Have you ever played Happy Home Designer, Casey?
No, and I'm actually, I told Jake that I was mad at him because he bought that for Heather for Secret Santa 2 years ago, and I told him I wanted it.
It's a lot of fun. I love it.
I really want it.
It's awesome because, like, one of my favorite aspects, one of the reasons I've played The Sims for as long as I have is because I really do enjoy, like, building and designing houses, and that's all that Happy Home Designer is designing. But Animal Crossing is really interesting because I can't think of too many games that are already kind of in that casual scope that have an even more casual variant. Like The Sims does have spin-offs, but they're all story driven, which is interesting, and that's something that I can talk about for another 8 billion years. But
speaking of 8 billion years, we're starting to get low on time, so we should start to draw it to a close.
But it's really interesting that, like, casual games can go two ways when it comes to spin-offs.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we said they're not a genre. It's
Yeah.
it's a type of intention of your consumer base. So like Mario Run is a casual game, whereas I don't know if I would really consider the Mario franchise as a whole very casual. It's very introductory and it's very like, you know, core for video games. But like, there's nothing really casual about Super Mario Brothers for the NES. Like that's a pretty tough game.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I guess it's a pick up and play game, but it's because it doesn't have saves. So I don't know about that either.
I don't know. I mean, like simple mechanics. No, really like. I mean, well, there is a time investment to it.
There's a high skill curve.
You have to continue playing it, but yeah.
I mean, there's a high, but that's again, we're not. It's not a genre. Like casual. It's also not like it is casual or it is not casual. Like Dark Souls is very much not a casual game, but like. If they went for mass appeal, which they like sort of did with 2 and 3, you could call it like casually influenced. But then like, are we talking about casual as in the intention of the audience? Or are we talking about casual as the intention of the skill level required to finish the game? It's a really nebulous definition that like, I think a lot of people who argue about whether something or someone is casual, a lot of the times they're talking about different things. Because for me, there's not a reason why casual should be an insult. And I was in the Melee community, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, because, like, even Melee is considered by other fighting games to be a casual fighting game.
Right.
Or not even a fighting game.
Mm-hmm. Which is, you know, the gatekeeping of video games being rampant everywhere.
Yeah.
Because we just like to argue about definitions of stuff. Like, we've argued about what a roguelike is before, even though it, like, kind of doesn't matter. People argue about what a... People argue about what RPGs are.
I would say that because people say arguing semantics is bad, but I would say it's actually sort of important because the titles and things that we attribute to things do influence the ways in which we think about them, and so
yeah, but 4chan shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, 4chan's not the high.
It's fine when we talk about what a genre is. It's not fine with random people who I don't personally know and have my blessing on Twitter.
But I mean, like, talking about what makes things, and trying to categorize things is useful. I mean, like, it's restrictive a lot of the time, but it's useful just for, like, simplifying information and allowing people, like, easier ways to think about and understand things.
I just think it needs to be understood by the like people talking that like if I tell you something is a roguelike, it should be understood that I might not be talking about like down to the core values the same way that you might. I'm using the definition that most people, even if wrongly, are using it because that's the way it's been communicated the most dominantly. Whereas if somebody like suggested Zelda to me as an RPG, Zelda's not really what I think of when I think of RPGs, but like who am I to say that it isn't one?
Yeah.
Because like if we really want to go into that, like it was designed to be an alternate take on the Dragon Quest formula. Like it was built to be an RPG. It just doesn't share a lot of the qualities with what we think RPGs are. But same thing with casual games. Like if somebody tells me like Mario Kart's casual, I could be like, well, there is a competitive scene for it. And they're like, no, I meant that it's going for mass appeal. Like, okay, well then like we're arguing two different things.
Yeah. I with that in mind, I will continue to argue about the definition of roguelike. Because when someone calls something a roguelike, there isn't a clear thing of what they're going to mean. Because if I don't know who they are, then roguelike will just mean one of two very different things. And it's just like the word loses its meaning because like it doesn't. I have to ask them, okay, you called it a roguelike, but what do you actually mean?
Yeah. I mean, in general, you would assume that they're talking about, like, the Spelunky school of roguelikes, but because that's what's most common now.
Maybe, but, like, I mean...
But they also might be, like, a big roguelike fanatic or something, and they're talking about, like, Netscape or whatever that was called.
Yeah. Or NetHack.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whenever a game releases on... Yeah, I know my roguelikes. Whenever a game releases on Steam and it has, like, the roguelike tag on it, I say, oh, is it though? And then I have to, like, check through the videos and, like, look at all the screenshots and, like, look at the reviews and see, is this the roguelike that I want the roguelike word to be, or is this the other roguelike?
I think that has a lot to do with, like, satire and sarcasm becoming, like, part of everyday use of things and, like, changing the definitions. Like, when people refer to a video game as an anime game, they're almost always wrong. Because, like, remember when we had that talk about what an anime fighter is, and I'm like, well, yeah, obviously Naruto fighting games are anime fighters because they're fighting games about anime. And you're like, no, actually, it's like Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. And I'm like, but those aren't anime. That's a different word. And it's a weird way that term has come to be used.
Yeah, I think it's... Again, we need to talk more about, like, getting better definitions for genres. Even though games will break these a lot, I think getting better definitions for genres will help a lot with discussing games.
Yeah. Honestly, I think we just need simple definitions for genres. But casual is not a genre anyway, so we're talking about the wrong thing. I mean, I guess it's a genre because the word genre is also, like, not that concise, but whatever.
Words are meaningless.
Nothing's real.
It's a lot more of a descriptor, I think. It tags along with the genre because, you know, a game like Bejeweled is way different than The Sims. The only thing connecting them is the fact, like, you know, however much time you dedicate or whatever. Like, the casual part is the only thing connecting them, but they play completely differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, casual's not a genre. It's a modifier, I would say.
So is RPG now.
And so is roguelike.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Games are fake and
anyway,
sad.
I think that's a pretty good low point to end this podcast on. Everything's fake and we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Some of us sooner than later.
Oh my god.
Statistically, one of my listeners will die before me.
Maybe.
Probably.
Not if I kill you first, Casey.
Will it be you, listener? Email me if it's you.
Yeah, please email Respawn Lounge if you die.
If you plan on dying soon, let me know. Anyway.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Respawn Lounge. This was episode such and such, whatever.
It's a number. I'll put the number on.
Follow us on Twitter at Respawn_Lounge or just Respawn Lounge. I don't remember. Follow us on Facebook. You'll find Respawn Lounge. We're the one with the couch and me talking a lot.
Yeah.
You're probably listening to this on YouTube, so if you want to subscribe to listen to more stuff, unless we've come up with something else and you're listening to this in the future. What else do we have? Follow us on Twitch if you want. I think that's also Respawn_Lounge.
Yeah, because we do stream games on there sometimes now.
I do stream games at my whimsy, which is like usually a couple of days in a row and then nothing for like 2 months.
Yeah, well, I mean, I made that really nice layout and interface.
And then I used it once to play Hearthstone.
Yeah. Used it once to crush my dreams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used it. I'll use it eventually. Well, we just started the semester again, so schedule's weird, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, we get to babysit the chat.
What else? Music was by Atrium __ on SoundCloud, who is changing his name eventually and moving it over eventually, and I'll let you know what and when and where.
Link will be in the YouTube description, and then when he changes it, I'll change that description in the YouTube. So just look there.
Cool. And what's we have a website too, where I spend a lot of time writing and no one reads it. I work really hard on that.
Really depressing.
I also wrote a thing for the website.
Yeah, Reva wrote one. And we've got a lot more coming in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. So that's respawnloungeofficial.wordpress.com, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll put in the YouTube description.
Thanks, Dan. And every Tuesday we post something written there, and every Thursday we upload to our YouTube. Those two things might have nothing to do with each other. They might have everything to do with each other. I did complete. Who knows? I don't know. It's just up to whatever's going on at the time. We've got the episodes that we record for the podcast planned out way, way ahead. That we do have the writing planned out. I don't even have next week's writing planned. So.
It's very much on the fly. Half the time, Casey's writing in the class that we have together.
Three times now I've written it 10 minutes before I post it in class.
Casey's writing it as you read it.
Yeah, sometimes I post it and then I edit it an hour later. Mm-hmm. I'm trying, just not that hard. Anyway, go check that stuff out. Let us know what you think. If you got any questions, concerns, comments, email us at respawnloungeofficial@gmail.com. Follow us on our stuff to keep up, and I will continue to complain about video games that aren't my favorites.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.